Sup fam, it's Musashden. Man, those months just fly by, don't they? The days start coming and they don't stop coming. You make your way downtown, walking fast, faces past, and you're homebound, and then bam! Suddenly it's a different year. Again. It seems 2021 just wouldn't go quietly into the night. Betty White died, my best friend got evicted, and Creepshowart decided to be the floating turd in the toilet of life. How very like her. I was all prepared to do a follow-up video on her evidence, but I couldn't in good conscience do that, seeing how I only made it 5 minutes into her steaming pile of bullshit before I clicked on a video of a dog farting in its sleep. You know, just to watch something more intelligent. I watched other people summarizing her video, and to those people, I say bravo. Y'all took that bullet for me, and I appreciate it. So it turns out, Creepshowart really was stalking Emily for nearly a decade, and again I asked, where the hell was she finding the time? Oh wait, I actually know the answer to this. I asked that just to answer my own question. Anybody wondering where she found the time, I really do have the answer. I ran into this problem back when I was a troll too. See, all that time spent capping shit for the lulz and tormenting bitches I was jealous of was time not spent improving on my art, and it really shows. Seriously, go back and look at my stuff from about 2009. I think sometime after that is when I stopped trolling and really started to pay attention to my actual art. Seriously, if you look at Shannon's art, you'll notice that it never changes, never improves. Now, I know what y'all are going to say. It's like, everybody improves on their own pace. Everybody doesn't do art to get better. A lot of people just do it for fun. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. But even someone doing it for fun will change slightly over time. It's a natural occurrence. It's literally human nature to change. You'll see something, hear something, read something that will influence your art style. Which just led me to believe that Shannon was only drawing sarcastically just to be like, see, I can do what Emily does and be more popular than her in the art community, and I'm not even into drawing. It makes me question that video where she said someone got her work tattooed on themselves, and I'm like, no they didn't. No they didn't, because why would they? Google is full of black pattern art eons ahead of you. I call bullshit on that. I know, weird thing for me to accuse her of lying about, but here we are. She was so self-deprecating of her art and herself. I'm like, there's no way in hell someone Google searched girl face drawing, came across hers, and thought it was good enough to put on their skin forever. So then I thought I'd be a douche and seriously critique her art, you know, just to beat this dead horse. And then I was like, why? Why am I doing that? Honestly, I've said in past videos that I really did use to critique other people's art to, you know, try to be a part of the art community, give back, help out others by offering them a compliment and a little advice, but I kept getting told to fuck off. In fact, I feel like that's a large part of the reason why I'm not part of the art community really as a whole, is because critique is part of it. Critique is part of art. It's going to get critiqued no matter where you put it up. Like, people are going to tell you what they think about it. And to be told to fuck off after, you know, telling an artist what you think of their stuff, I was like, what the hell? What's this hellscape? What is this? And it's just weird. Well, it's not weird. I mean, artists really do just want accolades. And I'm a bummer. I'm a bit of a bummer. I actually went to school for this kind of stuff, so I know how to make a critique, like, constructively. And so I can see why a self-taught artist wouldn't be used to someone telling them random anatomy shit or giving them color theory crap to look at. It always becomes that whole, bitch, who asked you response, and I always counter with, you did. The very second you put your art on the internet, you're asking me what I think. If I see it, you're asking me what I think. I'm not gonna lie. It is nice when people like what I draw, but I feel like if no one tells me if something is off with a certain aspect of it, I'll start to regress, you know, like a lot of professional comic artists do. 25 years later and Rob Liefeld still can't draw feet. J. Scott Campbell has same face syndrome. None of them know how titties actually work. It's kind of a problem. I digress. I'm not going to critique anyone's art, especially not Shannon's. She draws the same face every time, slaps a textured brush somewhere, barely uses brush pressure changes to fill in everything with unflattering lines, and speeds up her videos so fast that watching the rapid spinning canvas makes me motion sick. Oh shit, I did just critique her work. Oh well. I guess it can't be helped. I guess Shannon isn't the only one who likes one last word on played out bullshit. She told everyone to fuck off because she's quitting forever and ever, and I'm not believing that either, so whatever. She told us all to touch grass, which I guess is her hippy-dippy version of kick rocks, but I have allergies to everything, so I'd rather not. Fart noise. Now that that's out of my system, I'm going to talk about something that's actually useful to anyone out there looking to further their creativity, and that is how I actually go about creating a character. This is the weirdest segue I've ever done, but whatever. I had to get my 2 cents out about that whole bullshit. And I'm just like, oh wait, useful information here. Here I go. Trying to be part of our community again. Useful information nobody asked for. So I'm actually going to go about creating a character. What influences me and whatnot. I know some things about creating characters and making them interesting. This is not the end-all be-all of creating characters by any means. Just stuff to consider. Like if you're thinking of creating a character and you're just like, well, how do I do that? And it's like, you need a little advice? All right, here it is. Here it is. Free. There you go. So this is just stuff to consider when creating characters, be it for a fanfic or original work, because I do both and no one is going to stop me from making fan characters. So here I'm actually drawing a fan character. This is actually a fan character. He's original because I created him, but he's part of a fandom. His name is Julian Elborne-Link, and he's my OC for Vampire Hunter D, and more recently for Castlevania. After seeing Castlevania, I convinced myself that D and Alucard are actually half-brothers, and you cannot change my mind. Game recognized game. Vampire Hunter D and Castlevania share an art style, and the thought of D's real name actually being Dorian to match his brother Adrian just would not leave my brain. But it's weird now because Julian also has a name that ends in Ian, so just ignore that. Just ignore that. That was a fluke. Ignore that. They're not related. It would be weird if they were. Alright, moving on. I created Julian back in 2019. Jesus, that was so long ago. I mean, Bloodlust came out in 2000. It still looks good. But it came out in 2000, and it took me 9 years of watching the movie before I created him. So yeah, because of my recent love of Castlevania, I gave Julian's old character sheet an overhaul and updated his look. And just updated his lackluster appearance from back then, because it was very lackluster. Because, you know, see previous where I was trolling instead of drawing properly, so here's where we're at currently. Julian is actually the son of Meyer Link and Charlotte Melborne from Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and I know, making an OC the child of a canon character is considered lame by the fandom collective, but I like doing it. I like thinking of ways for my characters to be connected to canon characters. It just sort of fits them in rather than just having a character fall from the sky and become besties with the main protag just out of nowhere. Funny enough, that is actually exactly how Julian meets D. He literally falls from the sky in a space pod right in front of D, which was an incredible lucky shot if you think about how Vampire Hunter D takes place on Earth after it's been made a post-apocalyptic wasteland. I kind of did that ironically, like, what are the odds he'd fall right into D's lap? And if you want to know how that goes, go read my story. As far as I know, fanfiction.net is still clinging to life. Link in the description. So back to how I approached Julian. I think I stated in the story that he looks more like his mother. He has her skin color, her eye shape, and thick brown curls. Vampire Hunter D and Castlevania both have some vampires with animagus abilities, like turning into bats and mists and wolves and whatnot. Like even the half-breeds, like Alucard, seems to be able to do it, so it's not out there. It's not, you know, pushing the snowflake envelope that Julian can do it too, especially since his father was capable of forming wings and flying. The vampires and Dunpeals of the franchise are somewhat different from most portrayals of vampires in other media, Most of the vampires consider themselves noblemen or nobles. They shorten the nobles for short in Vampire Hunter D. They're rich and cultured and people of the world, and they only leave their gilded mansions to feed on the peasants. Half-breeds are looked down on as weaker, all except D, who is just a badass motherfucker and damn near the last of his kind. Everybody know D's reputation. They either try him and die, or respectfully leave him the F alone. And in some rare cases, a rando woman tries to bone him. I get it. D is a fine mofo I'd smash. If I was certain that it wouldn't break my hip, but I digress. At the end of Bloodlust, Charlotte and Meyer actually go to space, and I like to imagine that they actually made it to the castle in the sky instead of just dying horribly. So I imagine what it would be like if they actually, had their half-breed baby and it survived up there. Yeah, he wouldn't be used to Earth's gravity, oxygen, or sunlight. He'd be a weak, whiny little brat after years of hiding behind his mother's skirt. And for some reason, I thought that D having to deal with someone like that was high comedy. Just peak high comedy right there. If nothing else, I liked my odd couples. D already has a foil in the form of Left Hand, a sentient symbiote that resides in his left hand and has endless wisecracks about his host. So I made Julian friendlier. D barely speaks. Julian is overly chatty, near constantly talking about books he's read or spouting out random facts about something he's seen. D is strong and confident. Julian starts out extremely weak and inexperienced. He's overly trusting and has to learn the hard way that humans are mean to anyone, even remotely different. Julian wants to experience life on Earth, and D is like, been there, done that, hated it. Being weaker, Julian can't exactly get the hang of fighting demons with D's massive sword. And no, that's not a dirty joke. Or is it? I think it might be a dirty joke somewhere. He's more suited for a gun. Whereas D is strong physically, Julian is extremely smart, but he's prone to panicking, so that often doesn't come in handy with demon slaying. See, for every ability I gave him, I also gave him a flaw so it balances him out. And no, being clumsy and just sort of brave sometimes are not flaws. Neither is being a virgin or brassy or catty. A flaw needs to make the character unlikable in some aspect, something annoying, or even better, better yet, something that makes them mentally or physically unattractive or incapable until they eventually better themselves. He does have the same ability as his father to transform his cloak into wings, and sometimes if he tries hard enough, he can scream and summon bats to assist him, so there's your special snowflake ability right there. I was gonna give him a hat, but I can't draw hats. I know I'm the queen of saying, use a damn reference, Helen, and I tried. Dear Lord, did I try. There's some things that people can't draw, like Rob Liefeld and his feet, and J. Scott Campbell with different faces. I cannot draw hats, and I cannot draw hats for the love of God, and I could not make it look good, so I gave him a hood instead. It's just more youthful and cute for his character, and his character is supposed to be perpetually younger than D. I think I made Julian about 230 years old at the start of the story, and as it turns out, D is actually something like 5,000 years old, according to Gospel. Like, damn, he doesn't look a day over 1,000. Like, what is your beauty regimen, D? Like, Jesus Christ. Man looks good. 5,000. I couldn't believe it when I read that. 5,000 years old this dude is. Alright, anyway. Things to consider when creating a character. These are just random bullet points that I thought of that fit in with me creating Julian all those years ago. I tried to remember. So yeah, things to consider. It's like, how did their parents treat them? Like, not everybody had the same childhood as you. So it's something that adds depth to the character. Personally, I had a charmed upbringing. I had great parents. My siblings were okay. I was always fed, clean, and secure. And that's not to say that all of my characters have that upbringing. I have a few characters that had a crummy childhoods, and it's something I actually had to do research on. I wish I didn't have to. I wish people would be nice to their children always, because kids did not ask to exist. Your child did not ask to exist. Do not be a dick to them. I don't want to segue into stuff about shitty parents, so I'll just go over Julian's childhood. He was raised aristocratically. He's a mama's boy and an only child, so he got all of Charlotte's attention. Attention he so desperately misses when he's sent to Earth. He's a very sweet man, but is prone to pouting when Dee ignores him, which is a lot. Like, Dee ignores him a lot. A lot of time, Dee is just tuning him out. But he is also, despite this, he's still very affectionate and open about his emotions. Something else to consider, what scares them. Not everybody is afraid of bugs or has claustrophobia. I do. Doesn't mean that the character has to. And what seems like paradise to me might be a nightmare for them. Case in point, Julian hates being left alone for too long. In his childhood, his mother was never too far away, and when she did have to leave him for certain amounts of time, he has something to read or something to do. He's kind of clingy. So far, Dee is the only person on Earth to show him kindness, so his fear is being alone forever. His fear is losing Dee and Left Hand to some kind of catastrophic event. So he's very clingy. And he fears being alone. Something else mundane to consider is just put it in there as a weird thing that you mentioned offhand. It's what's their favorite food? Julian, as it turns out, is on the weaker side of being a dun peel, so he has more human traits than vampires, so he has to eat more often than Dee, who apparently can go weeks without eating real food or blood. This is according to the people who created him. This fool doesn't have to eat, and he doesn't age, and he's only half vampire, and it's a whole, I'm like, damn, is he God tier? He's fucking God tier, isn't he? But anyway, Julian doesn't really like blood, but it does give him the temporary ability to heal quickly, so sometimes he does have to drink some. He likes all sorts of foods, and he knows how to cook, but I'd say something rare for their world is his favorite, something you wouldn't come across in the apocalypse, like cheesecake or something. Yeah, I think in one chapter they do eat cheesecake, and he's just over the moon about it. So, his favorite food is, cheesecake, and any kind of fruit is a treat to him, because where are you going to find fruit in the apocalypse? Come on. I know people hate a self-insert sort of thing, but sometimes it's okay to put some of your traits in the character. The character should not be you in a wig, but they can react to certain situations like you would, or have your affinity for hoodies. Honestly, I have no idea what it's like to be an aristocratic gay white man, but that's what research is for. Just keep in mind what universe you're in. It doesn't really make sense for Julian to be a fan of pizza or Prince when he lives in a veritable apocalypse. Take Julian here, once he trains up with his gun, he's actually a really good shot. He actually likes camping and hunting demons with Dee. He's actually, a social butterfly in the story. He loves talking to people, which I don't. Sometimes it's fun to give your character opposite traits of you, just to be like, oh, is that how that would go? Yeah, okay. Yeah, he loves talking to people. He has no weather preference. He finds all climates on Earth fascinating because he's never experienced weather before. So that's another thing about him that he's like, oh my God, the sun is shining. Oh my God, water's falling from the sky. Oh my God, the wind is blowing. It's because he's from space. He's never experienced real weather before, so he's fascinated by stuff like that, and it's kind of cute to put in there. I say all of this to say there are a million things to consider when creating a character, and even when you're done, you're never truly done evolving them, unless of course the story ends and you're just done with the story. What's it been 12 years? And I'm still developing this one fan character out of nearly 20 that I have grand total. So I love doing this. I love creating characters and giving them all these little things about them, different things about them. And my point is, I could spend my time furthering my art and characters rather than spend any more time explaining why Creepshowart is a shitty person. See what I did there? I brought it back around full circle. So literally do anything else other than analyzing this dumb chick and her bullshit. This is Julian's new completed look. I have started writing his story again, and the first new chapter, after over 10 years of not updating, is up now. Brand new, fresh and pristine. Links to this completed pick and the story are in the description below. The story is good. I like it. Like, even when I went back to reread it to continue it, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't as cringy as some of my older shit from nearly 20 years ago. The story is good. I like it. People have told me that it's funny and they love the dynamic between Julian, D, and Left Hand. But don't take my word for it. Go read it. It's a better use of your time than more of Shannon's BS. If you like watching me draw my characters, please, by all means, subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, Wattpad, and Tumblr because I am Musashden here, there, and everywhere. Thanks for watching!